Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my 13 movie review number 3. So, if you haven't seen either of the first two of these, you don't need to watch them in order or anything. It's not like a continuous thing, but I would definitely suggest checking them out. There are two more of these back from May and June, so I would definitely suggest giving those a watch as well, because I talk about some recent movies I had seen in those as well. Yeah, so it's been a while, like I said, since June that we did the last one of these. But we're back with another 13 movie review. Um, and the reason it's been so long is that most of the movies I've been watching in between June and now have been on the channel, it seems. So it's like I'm not going to review those because I kind of already did in my afterthoughts of those videos. These are movies I watch on my own time that I review in these 13 movie um, review videos. So yeah. So these, yeah, like I said, they're movies I've watched on my own time. Um, they can be new, old, doesn't matter. And I'll just give my quick thoughts on each of them. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want this video to be too long. It's just going to be quick, basic thoughts on all of them. I might mention one or two things about them if I really feel I want to. Um, but otherwise, it's going to be short and to the point. Um, and yeah, there's nothing really else to say, so let us get this going. So, first up, we have Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was I believe it was direct to DVD style or maybe digital. Well, both, I guess. Um, when I went into it, I didn't have much high hopes for it because it just sounded like a silly, gimmicky film. It was actually really good. It was surprisingly good. Like it understood the characters well. Like it truly understood the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, unlike some shows more recently. Um, it understood Batman and the rest of the Bat family. It was fun. It was interesting, and it kind of brought both worlds together in a believable way. Like it didn't feel out of place or wrong or off. Nothing that happened in it felt like it was out of nowhere or like it wouldn't happen in this kind of situation with these characters. The interactions were great. There were some really fun moments. I just really enjoyed it. But after that, we have The Thing, specifically the 2011 Thing, because as you may remember, I reacted to the 80s one. The 2011 Thing movie is a prequel to the 80s one, showing what happened at I believe it was Serbian base, prior to the events of the first one, where, at the beginning of the 80s one, you saw the dog coming and the people chasing after the dog. It explains what happened to get to that point and everything else you see at the Serbian base. It's a really good movie. Again, it's not. I went into it expecting it to be not that good, but it was really good. It's not as good as the 80s one in a lot of ways, but there's also some ways where it's a little better. But it's for the most part, it's not as good as the 80s one. um, like the 80s one was just a huge masterpiece in terms of practical effects and body horror. And this one tries to duplicate that and does well, but it doesn't get to the right uh, level, the same level as the 80s one. It's a good movie nonetheless. It explains things properly as a prequel and gives a lot more depth behind the 80s one. So I have no real big complaints to it. Um, After that, though, we move on to Zoolander 2. So Zoolander 2 was a movie that I was expecting to be extremely stupid because Zoolander 1 was extremely stupid. And thankfully, it was extremely stupid. And it's supposed to be. Like, when I went into it like thinking it's going to be stupid, it's like that's not a bad thing for this movie because the first movie was so good, so popular because it was stupid. It was meant to be stupid. It was meant to be ridiculous. It was meant to be kind of a parody of that kind of thing, of fashion moguls and just fashion stars in the first place. It was meant to be over the top. It was meant to be goofy. It was meant to be dumb and ridiculous, and in a lot of ways make no sense. In a lot of other ways make a little too much sense, if that makes any sense. And the sequel was exactly what you'd expect. The only thing the sequel really changed was that they really went heavier into the celebrity cameos. Like the first movie had some celebrity cameos, like David Bowie was there and everything. Um, and of course, celebrities as themselves are what I'm referring to, especially. But the second one really went heavy into that. Like it really went a lot further with this with the cameos. And for the type of film it is, and for it being a Zoolander sequel, it didn't feel wrong to do that. But there was a point where it's like getting to, okay, is this a little too much with this? Not that they were bad ones, but yeah. Either way, I enjoyed it for what it was, a stupid fun time. Number four is Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. This was one I was really excited for, and unlike some of the others where I was excuse me, where I was going into it expecting to dislike it or find it dumb, and I ended up liking it instead. This was one where I went into it expecting to like it and didn't. Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge doesn't focus on what it promises. The advertising, the name, and everything about the movie focuses on Scorpion. The movie itself does not. At least not as much as it should. The movie itself is basically just a retelling of the first Mortal Kombat tournament. It's a retelling of that, and it focuses too much on other characters like Liu Kang, Sonya, and Johnny Cage. Um, it shows like it shows Scorpion's backstory, his depth, and all of that, but it doesn't do enough. And again, it switches focus to the Mortal Kombat tournament too often, and just feels like it's trying to split the focus. Like, yeah, I know it's Mortal Kombat. Everybody knows that, but we went into this movie expecting a Scorpion movie. We didn't go into it expecting or wanting a movie about the tournament. Like you can have the tournament as a backdrop. Yeah, you can have that as the basic setting for a lot of it, but focus on Scorpion. And unfortunately, there was too much in the movie where it didn't. Um, and the animation was good. The voice acting was good. Nothing like amazing, but good. The biggest problems was that it changed focuses too much, and in the end, just wasn't satisfying as either a Mortal Kombat 1 story or as a Scorpion story. It didn't really fulfill its like promises in any way. So yeah, that's a weaker one for me. Unfortunate as it is. Number five is Labyrinth. The famous Jim Henson, David Bowie film that you constantly remember specifically for the Dance Magic Dance song. And after watching it, I can say that really that's all there is to remember about it. Labyrinth, like maybe this is just not my kind of movie, but I found it boring. Most of the movie was uninteresting. The acting was atrocious. Like, seriously, outside of David Bowie, all the actors did terribly. Especially the main girl. Like, she was absolutely horrible. It's like she'd never acted before. um, The puppetry was amazing. Like, I won't argue that. The puppetry was amazing. The creativity was there. But the issue was that the movie just was not that interesting. Like the very concept of it was super generic. Like, oh, this enemy has kidnapped my younger brother. I have to go get him back while facing these perilous uh, journeys. And it's like, okay, that is such a generic ass story. It's not funny. And really, the only good moments of this movie were when David Bowie was on screen. I mean, the music was good, but like when it wasn't involving David Bowie, it just wasn't as catchy. Like I don't know if that was intentional, but it's like all the music that David Bowie was not connected to in any way was not as interesting and not as good, in my opinion. And I just felt the movie lacked something. Like I can get it if you grew up with this film and have a very special place in your heart for it. It's like sure, and even if you didn't and you just like the film anyway, that's all good. These remember these are just my opinions. I just could not get into it for the life of me. The story felt very generic. The acting was bad for everyone except Bowie, who for some reason was just the best in the movie. The music outside of Bowie's stuff was not that great. It disappointed for me. It wasn't absolutely atrocious or terrible, but it disappointed. Number six, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, another movie that disappointed. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom um, disappointed for one major reason. It was too well, okay, two major reasons. It was one, convoluted as hell, and two, the characters are dumb as fuck. So this movie tries to bring in so many different story beats and plot points and ridiculousness to the point where they even have a this little girl who ends up being a clone in the end, and it's like super what the fuck. And then the characters are so fucking stupid and they just let the dinosaurs go, just roam out into the real world. Real world, wrong way to put that. Roam out into the world, just let them be free. These dangerous uh, man eating beasts for a lot of the part. I mean, yeah, some of them are herbivores, but still. And it's like, you know that they're going to cause havoc. You know that they're going to eat people. You know that this is in every way a bad idea, and yet they still do it because save the animals. And that's literally it, too. Like, the movie is so heavy handed with its entire save the animals spiel that it's like you're practically drowning in it. And the connection does not work. Like connecting it to like real life save the animals stuff when you're talking about like real life animal, well, dinosaurs are real, but you know what I mean, current day real life animals, it's not comparable because most of the time these animals are not as dangerous and stuff. The dinosaurs in this franchise have been proven to be excessively dangerous and deadly, and just not only just not choosing to kill them but actively letting them out into the world where again you actively know that they're going to cause not just trouble but mass death before they're able to be killed anyway by military, which you also know is going to happen. So it's like you're not actually saving them. It's really fucking dumb. And you in some ways you could even say that you're basically acting as I mean you're not straight up murdering people, but it's pretty damn close. It's like with like in Breaking Bad where Walter lets the girl choke on her vomit and die instead of saving her. It's like you're not actively murdering her, but it's pretty much the same thing. And that's what's going on here. It's like they let these dinosaurs out into the world knowing they're going to kill people, actively knowing they're going to do it, and basically saying that that does not matter. All that matters is animal rights. And it's like, so you're basically saying that you're okay with them killing people. You're saying that you are actively letting these dinosaurs go out and kill people just for animal rights. Yeah, people can be shitty, but that's not okay. The movie was too dumb and too ridiculous. It made these completely stupid connections, like that just were not valid at all. And it just it felt like it was trying to teach a message over being an actual well thought out and well written and directed movie. And because of that, it fell really flat for me, which sucks because the other Jurassic movies, Park, Kingdom, or Jurassic World, all the other ones have been really good. So it's really disappointing. Number seven is Reservoir Dogs, one of the earliest movies by Quentin Tarantino, and it shows. This one was another one that I was disappointed by. I had heard about it for a long time, obviously. I'd seen maybe a couple clips here and there. Actually, watching it, I was extremely disappointed. And I think it's because of what I kind of expect Quentin Tarantino to be like these days for his movies. This one being an older one, it was boring. I was not that invested in the story. The characters weren't as interesting. The acting was great. I won't argue that. The acting was great. But the story itself and the what was going on was not really. It was kind of boring, kind of uninteresting, and most of the time it was just nothing really was happening. I just didn't care. Like the big draw of it is like the mystery of like, oh, who's the traitor? Who's among us? Kind of viewing that kind of timely joke. Um, but no, it was literally kind of that thing going on. It's like someone betrayed us, and there and who is it? Like that was kind of the big mystery of it, and really the only thing that really kept me somewhat invested throughout the film. But even so, the reveal was so freaking obvious. It wasn't actually a surprise. And it wasn't like one of those cases where, oh yeah, you could tell by how this is written and directed that you're supposed to know, and it's not supposed to be a surprise. But that's kind of the point of it. But no, it wasn't like that at all. It felt like it felt like it was one of Tarantino's earlier works in the fact that it felt unpolished. It just didn't feel like there was as much thought put into it, as much polish, as much interest, as much intrigue and fun. It was definitely one of his weaker showings. That's all I'm saying. If not his weakest that I've seen. Number eight is hashtag alive. So this is a Korean zombie movie on Netflix. And I decided to check it out because, the last Korean zombie movie I saw, well, either of them, because there were two of them, Soul Station and Train to Busan, those were fantastic. I love those. And I'm not even a big zombie movie fan, and I love those. So I wanted to check this out, seeing if it was if it could be as good as those. And I wouldn't say it's as good as Train to Busan or Seoul Station, but it is damn good. It's like, can we just let South Korea handle all the zombie films from now on? Because they seem to really know how to do it. The zombies are very similar to those other two movies, where they're like the very twitchy, fast-moving zombies that make a lot more of the scratchy, like crazy noises and movements and all. Um, Plus, in this one, they shown to have a level of intelligence that you don't see in zombies too much. Um, but it's like I like those zombies more than the slow moving ones that you see in like The Walking Dead or whatnot, because they're actually scary like this. When they're slow moving and stuff, they're not a threat unless they're in a large group or they catch you by surprise. And in that situation, it's just like most of the time you're going to be able to outrun or outsmart or just kill them easily. But when there are zombies like this, like these Korean zombie movies have shown, then yeah, you're not going to be able to do that as easily. They're scarier. They are more erratic and unpredictable. And on top of that, it's like you're not going to just necessarily be able to easily run from them. But this movie had very little actual actors in it, but the ones who were in it did fantastic. They really sold just everything about the loneliness and intensity of a zombie apocalypse. I really liked the survival aspect of it. It really hammered in the survival aspect, more so than like, oh, we're gonna fight zombies. No, it was definitely more about surviving and avoiding zombies, which I actually really liked. But it still did show plenty of zombie fun, so it didn't shy away from that necessarily. Um, but the survival aspect, like you don't see a lot of zombie media go into that as often, not as heavily as this movie did, and I really do appreciate that. It was easy to follow along with, like I can understand how some of these Korean films and or even Japanese films, it's like, oh, I don't know necessarily where this place is, but it's like when you hear like an American film, it's like, oh, I'm from LA, and it's like you understand that. But it's like you watch these and it's like I don't know where that is, and it's like there's a couple moments of that, but it never really gets to the point where it's bothering. And it's like because it's not really as important to the story. You realize what's important really quickly, and it's like yeah, they'll mention places, but it's like it's not going to affect your view of the events happening. So it just doesn't feel like it's as big a deal. But yeah, it's a really fantastic film. Like I said, it's on Netflix. I would definitely suggest checking it out if you have not already. So next up, number nine, is the 2014 Annie movie. So Annie's had a few iterations. There's the original one that had the likes of Carol Burnett and Tim Curry in it. Then that one got remade into one that honestly I don't even remember that well. And then there was this one. And this one got a lot of flack for a lot of reasons. One thing was that the fact that they made Annie black. And there were some people who did not take to that well. I was one of them. And I fully admit I was in the wrong. Because my entire thought process at that point, back when this was released 2014, was that they should not change a character's appearance and skin color and everything just for the sake of diversity, and that they should make other characters, new characters to celebrate. And it's like the idea behind that mindset isn't terrible, but it's like it's still a dumb racist mindset. And it honestly it's just dumb. There's no need for it. It's not important. It's not like I was dumb. I was very dumb. But I finally got around to seeing this movie because I did enjoy the original Annie. I love the music from it, and I've even heard versions of some of the songs from this version, and I've just never checked it out. Um, so I finally did, and it was actually really damn good. Like honestly, I would say it's worthy of even being called possibly as good as the original, but in different ways because it's a modern retelling. It handles things in the modern world. The characters are slightly different, slightly off, but it gives a more modern twist to them. There's more like recent connections. Like in a modern day setting, obviously the classic Daddy Morbucks wouldn't work as well. So Jamie Foxx's version of the character in here makes more sense. And instead of an orphanage, you have um what's it called? I can't remember the name of the I can't remember what it's called. Um Foster home. That's it. You have a foster home instead, which again, more modern retelling and makes more sense for the time. The actors were fantastic. Obviously, Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz, they're going to be great. But the girl who played Annie was fantastic. She did a really great job. The music was great. It was There were some great updates on it, and there were even some really great new songs. Like there's one song that Fox's character sings. It's really good. And yeah, I've heard that people just didn't like this, that ignoring the other stuff, that they just felt it was not that well made and everything. But I disagree heavily. I think this was a fantastic film. It was a really good remake in every way, pretty much. Number 10, though, is Psych 2 Lassie Come Home. So, yeah, this is the second Psych movie based on the old TV series. And the first one I kind of was very lukewarm on. I didn't like it as much. I felt like they just didn't hit the right notes comedically or dramatically. This one did. This one very much did. All the actors are at their best. The comedy is at its best. Like this feels like a proper continuation of this series in the best ways. And it's fantastic. It's great. It's great to see all of these same actors. Like James Roday Rodriguez is amazing again, and of course Dule Hill, Maggie Lawson is in there, and it's just like all of them are just so fantastic. The story is great too. It's a good story that centers a lot around Lassie, obviously Lassiter, who wasn't in the first movie much because the actor, what is his name? It's Timothy something, I believe. I think it is. Yeah. But anyway, I can't remember it exactly at the moment. But he, like, in real life, the actor suffered a stroke. And so they actually integrated that into the films, into the first film, even. That's why he wasn't on screen much. But also into this film, they integrated it in really well. And they still made him truly a star of this movie. And they made him shine. And he did fantastically. He did wonderfully in the role. So it's like he still got it, and that's awesome to see. And there were the exact jokes you would expect from this. The same kind of humor and everything. The pineapple, of course, because you can't have Psych without the pineapple. Um, but yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Number 11 is The Witch, which for some reason they decided to spell with two V's instead of a W. Because spooky. And that's what this movie felt like. It felt like someone coming up into your face and saying, "Ooh, look, it's spooky," rather than actually being any kind of scary. This movie kind of played with the idea of possession and like this idea of creepiness, this idea of atmosphere, but it didn't work on pretty much any level. It was excessively boring. The entire Black Phillip plot line thing was meh. Like it just wasn't that interesting at all. The ending was like, okay, who cares? It's like shit hit the fan really quickly, but who cares? It's not like I was really invested in any of these characters or anything that was happening with them. That's the biggest flaw of this film. It doesn't get you invested. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing, even slightly scary about it. The actors are just kind of, oh, they're just kind of there. It's like they're not believable, but they're also not really bad either. They're just kind of there. They exist. That's literally it. And it just it was so underwhelming. I believe people like this film, but I can't for the life of me see why. It was boring to me. It was boring, not scary. The actors were just there. and the ending was just uneventful because it's like I had no reason to care about these characters up to that point or what was going on with them. It didn't invest me at all. But we move on to number 12, and that is Detroit. So, Detroit is a movie telling the real life story of an event back during I believe it was during the original civil rights protests and all in Detroit. Like centering around the same time period as like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and shit. Um, this movie was very, very good, but very hard to watch. Um, Being from the Detroit area and living in the Detroit area most of my life, seeing this movie based on a true story, knowing that these events did happen, just obviously not exactly as they're being told here, because they're making a movie still. They have to take some liberties. It's not a documentary, but seeing that these events did still happen is horrifying. It's really, like I said, it's really hard to watch this kind of racism, profiling, and just horrible bullshit against these people. All the actors in it do a phenomenal job, though. John Boyega from the Star Wars sequel trilogy is in it, and he's fantastic. He's definitely one of the stars of the film. But there's a lot of other big names in it, like Anthony Mackie is in it too. Um, and it's and the one guy from Black Mirror Bandersnatch is in it. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he's like the programmer guy with the glasses who's kind of out out of it and crazy. But yeah, he's in there too. Um, it's really hard to watch because there's a lot of horrible shit that happens and a lot of just really heavy racist shit, and it's just so disturbing and disgusting. And I feel like in the current climate of where we're at here in America, at least, it's an important movie to see because of that. So I think it was really, really good. It's just something I don't see myself being able to watch again because it makes me physically ill. But on to our 13th and final movie for this set, Aladdin 2019. So this was a movie that a lot of people don't like because it's a Disney live action remake and people are just kind of programmed not to like those. Um, I'm always willing to give them a shot, not to see like, oh, if they're like a step by step remake or anything, or see like, oh, how did they ruin this or that. The thing is, unlike a lot of people out there, I'm not one of those who puts the classic animated movies on such a high pedestal that I believe that remaking them is a bad idea by by the idea itself. I'm not one who puts them on so high of a pedestal that I'll like complain about any choices they make, any differences there are, any actors they put in. I won't think I'm not that kind of person. I'm willing to give any of these remakes a chance. And really, the only one that I truly found bad was the Lion King one. Honestly, I haven't seen the Mulan one though, and honestly, I don't really plan to due to certain factors about it. But I'm not going to get into that here. So the Aladdin one, the 2019 Aladdin remake, I really liked it. I'm not going to say whether or not I thought it was like better or worse than the original animated one because it really stands on its own. The actors are fantastic. It has a sexy Jafar, which I did not know I needed. Seriously though, the actor who's playing Jafar is honestly really hot. Um, it has the music is great. It feels both very much like the classic songs from the original animated movie, but at the same time, it also feels new and fresh. Like, my favorite scene in the movie and my favorite song is definitely the Prince Ali song when they're marching in. Um, that was the performance by all of them, and especially Will Smith. It was perfection. It was fan fucking tastic. And the handmaid, Jasmine's handmaid. Oh my god, that actress is hilarious. I didn't like she wasn't in the original animated movie. She is a completely new character. I did not expect to like her as much as I did. I adored her. She was hilarious. But yeah, there was some new music in this one. Like with the remake. There's this song from Jasmine that was really good. Just a really just emotional, like heart pounding, deep song. Jasmine was so. One thing that I will say was better than the animated version, the original animated, was Jasmine herself. The character of Jasmine was so much better. Like, say what you want about Will Smith as the genie compared to Robin Williams' original interpretation, um, but it is undeniable to me that Jasmine was handled better here. Like, she was a very strong-willed, compassionate, and very kind of girl power type of character in the original. But it always felt like they didn't take it as far as they could or should have. But in this one, they handled it a lot better, and it makes it feel more natural and believable. And I love the entire aspect about her wanting to actually become the Sultan herself. I thought that was really good. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I liked the changes they made. I liked the choices that they brought in from the original and how they integrated it all. I thought it was very well handled. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would say it is definitely a better live action remake than like even Beauty and the Beast or whatnot. Definitely, obviously, like I said, I didn't like the Lion King one. Um, but yeah, um, I have really no real complaints. I really, really enjoyed it. So that being said, what did you think of these 13 films? Um, did you enjoy them as much as I did, or did you find more at fault with them? Sorry for the movement there, by the way, just trying to center things for the end here. Um, Tell me if you've seen any of these or if you plan to at this point. And yeah, we'll probably do another one of these 13 movie reviews in the future. Um, Once I get to 13 more movies that I've seen outside of reactions and stuff. I might even just continue doing this just as as a continuous series on the channel because I do enjoy making these. Um, they're fun to do, just these quick little like speed round reviews of all these movies. Plus, it gets to let you guys know what I've seen on my own time and all. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably going to continue doing these as often as I can. Basically, every time I get up to 13 more movies I've seen. Um, but yeah, tell me your thoughts on these films down in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See you all next time.